Hello everyone, this is Libby, otherwise known as Silverlief, and today we're going to be covering Mum's journal. I gave it a night in a book press, so it's not as quick to open as it was, but it's still a very chunky monkey, so we will end up with a closure to keep it shut when she's not using it. I haven't figured out what I want to do for that yet, and we'll see. I apologise. People enjoying the nice weather we've got outside. Yes. So we're going to cover it. Before I cover it, I'm going to add a ribbon. I'm going to sew it onto the spine. And then we're going to cut down this piece of leather. What's important is, because this is Coptic stitching, usually you would already have the covers covered in whatever you're using before you bind it. I'm covering the Coptic, which isn't standard, but it's how I like to do it. It's going to be important that I make sure I give enough space for the spine. So if I open it fully, I can bring in the book covers on the back so they're closer together. I don't want that. That's going to be the important part, is I want to make sure that when I'm putting it down, the spine has as much room as it can, so that when it's all glued down to this leather, it will still be able to fully move. Okay, so that's going to be the important part. But we'll get to that once I want to sew in. If I can find, it's hiding. I have some nice blue ribbon. Oh, he's such a baby. Blue ribbon. I haven't done it like this before, but what usually I add the ribbon to a spine that's glued in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sew it onto a couple of these in the middle and leave the rest of it free fall, well, hanging. Okay. So we're going to do that first. I'm going to use a thinner thread to sew it. We're not using the stick stuff, we just want something thin. We're almost like we're tacking it on, if you're familiar with hand sewing. Okay, so we're just going to add it on. I just have some regular polyester thread to hand. It doesn't matter the colour because you're never going to see this after this. So I'm just gonna, if you can hear my poor hard done to dog in the background, I assure you he has everything he needs. He's just being dramatic. He says, "Mama should not be talking to anybody but me. How dare she?" Anyway. So. And I'm gonna do it similar to how I was sewing the signatures in. I'm just gonna take it under. You can see under the stitch, like between the signatures, to sew it in. And I'm probably just going to use another one of those same round needles. If I'm a little slow with my words today, this is after a work shift. My brain fog has set in, but I really want to craft. I want to do this, and I wanted to make sure that I had the process on video for my mum. So, well, and for the rest of you actually. At this point, there's been quite a few of you watching. So, I'm using these arrows to tell me which way is up, since we have the pockets on the inside. So I'm just going to make sure that this is at the top, and I'm going to go I'm going to go 3 stitches down with it, roughly in the middle. In fact, I can go directly in the middle. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going on this line. Okay, and I'm literally oh, did I tie a knot? I did tie a knot. Sorry. So 3 down, and I'm just going to hook it around. You can't see what I'm doing. I'm just hooking it around this one here. You see that? Oh, I need to double knot that. Good to know. But I'm just going to do this one on each section. And that should secure it enough. Sorry, I'm just in the background trying to tie a knot. If this knot doesn't work, I'm just going to quickly tack the thread to the ribbon first. Which I'm going to have to do. Okay, so roughly where am I starting? Right here at the end. Duh. Okay, so I'm just going to tack this on by just sewing a couple of stitches. And as I'm sewing these stitches, I'm holding the end of my thread. There might be better ways to do this, but this is just how I'm doing it. And that's just so the thread is locked, so it's not going to come out. Okay, and then as I say, I'm going to lay it down here in the middle. I've already got it on the back side, so I can just loop it through. I should probably have started up at the top, but I didn't. Loop it through and then underneath, bring it back through, and we should be able to, just like that, lock it on. Okay, so I'm going to do 2 stitches per area, so loop that around. I really don't know how people show this sort of thing on camera. Maybe they zoom the camera in. Perhaps this is just finicky work because I'm using small needles and threads. Okay, then I'm going to go up to the next spot, and again I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm going to be careful because I don't want it to come back through the ribbon in the wrong spot. So this is still on the underside of the ribbon, and then I'm going to put it back through once I have it where I want it, like this. Okay, and genuinely all we're doing here is locking it down. So it doesn't need to be anything crazy. What did I do there? Okay. So then bring it back through. You're never going to see this again because I'm hiding the spine. But I've tried like gluing it before, but I don't want glue on this spine. So if it was a regular book I was doing, I wouldn't mind gluing it. But honestly, sometimes the gluing doesn't even work that well anyway. But yeah, you don't want any glue on this spine when you're doing this project. If you're copying, you need there to be movement. Otherwise, you're just case binding, and you're losing the whole purpose of the coptic stitch. Okay, so we've done that. I'm just going to quickly do one last run through to lock the ribbon in place. Oh, well I went up here, so I went up here. And then I'm just going to slip under and make a knot. Okay. Make myself a little knot. And that's going nowhere. That's now secure. I'm going to leave a little bit of space and see if I can double knot it. Oh wait, I can't double knot it because I don't have another end. That's fine. I'm just going to trim off these excess bits. I like to do what we call flying by the seat of my pants. I don't really... there's certain things that I'll just do for the first time, as if I've done it 50 times. That's one of them. It worked. Okay, and then once we're done, this ribbon can just slot in wherever it wants to go. You know, like a regular ribbon on a book would. Like a bookmark, sorry, is what we're going for here. Why can't you go in between? So I'm just going to rest that in the middle here, nicely out of the way, whilst we do this next part. In fact, I'm going to pop it all the way in. Okay, so as I say, this part, it's important. Oh, you can't even see this whole thing in the shot. It's important that you keep the whole spine. No, because we're going... Sorry, saying no to my dog. Because we're going to be opening the book flat the idea is we're going to cut it, fold it over, and then gently tuck the bottom and the top under where the signature is to this first hole. And it's very easy for these parts to go underneath your signatures. You do not want that. You want as much room in that spine as you can so it can fully open. Sorry about that. Doggo's acting up. Okay. So I'm just going to gently knot this so I can keep it out of the way. Okay. So make sure that I'm getting all of my spine there. Okay. Now, I don't want too much. So we've got what? I think it was an inch down before we hit the first hole. I want about that amount on top. I can't have more than that. And I don't really want too much less than that. So I'm going to first mark it around where it is. And then I'll measure up from that. And I want to get as much use out of this lovely leather as I can. So I'm going to put it pretty close to the edge. About there. Okay, pen. I'm just going to use my silver pen. Why not? It's what I have to hand. So as I say, making sure, try and make it nice and even on the spine too. I'm just holding it down by the signatures. Excuse me. Pull out just a little bit. There we go. Alright. Doesn't have to be perfect, because again I am adding on to this. It's just so there's an idea for roughly how much I need to be cutting. Okay. So then I'm just going to quickly measure on the book. I think it was about, see, I said it was an inch, but it's actually less than an inch. We need to make sure that it's less than. So I'm going to go for like 3/4 of an inch. It needs to be more than half an inch. Go for 3/4 of an inch. I actually have a hard time seeing where 3/4 of an inch is on this ruler. Where's my other ruler? Okay. And here comes the, oh, it's difficult to to film this. So roughly about here. Roughly about here. Doesn't have to be perfect because you're not going to see the finished bit on the inside. We just want to make sure that there's enough room. Oh. Here. Sorry if I keep hitting my mic and it sounds weird, I apologise. Not intentional. You. Yeah. I'm not as worried about the corners because we're going to snip them anyway. So if they're a little off, it's fine. They're being mitered. So. Up on top. And if it ends up a little too long in places that it isn't going to tuck under nicely, I'll just trim it down. Usually I don't do this much mark making. But I figured why not? If I'm going to explain what I'm doing, I may as well also show what I'm doing, if you can even see it. I don't think this pen much likes the leather. It's like fine for the first bit, and then it's soaking it up. But you can still kind of see. That's all that matters. Yeah. Do all the way across. That'll do. So now I should probably get. Oh, I do have my fabric scissors. 1 second. I was gonna say I should probably go find my fabric scissors, but I actually have them on hand. So now I'm gonna cut out the outer line of this. I'm going to save some of this leather that gets cut off to make a band at the top of my, at the top of the journal that we can attach an eyelet to, and I can hang some pretty dangles from. At least that's the plan. So just cutting this down. I think the first time I did this actually was my big Forester's book. This thing was a beast, a huge, each like folded page, like when folded, was still an A4 sheet of paper. It was a big boy. And I wanted it to be able to lie open and be nice, but I couldn't figure out how to do it and have it leather bound, so I had to figure this out. I'm not sure if anybody else does it like this. I'm not sure if there's a name for it or anything. Okay, so here we are. Now, it's a little wonky because how I open this will depend on how much room is in the spine. But it's fine. What matters most is the top and the bottom, that we're able to, if you can see what I'm doing, I'm folding it under and then pulling it to the middle. And that's how we're going to get our spine covered. Now there'll be no glue on this part. The glue is all going to be on the boards. Okay. But what I will start with are these two easier ends. Start here. That way everything's glued down and it gives you a nice base to work with. And then you can move the book around and it's not going to shift from the leather, if that makes sense. Well, actually, what we're going to do first is glue here. But again, no glue on the spine. We'll leave the spine completely alone. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to add my glue, and I'm using a wet PVA glue. No glue sticks. I don't want any sort of like fast, like glitter glue or belly art glue. It's going to be a bit too fast. There's a lot of maneuvering around with this. You need there to be time for it to move. And I'm also going to use a lot of binder clips for when I'm ready for it to start setting. If I can find my glue stick, glue brush. I have this, which I would usually be using for smaller projects. Somewhere I have, if I can find you in my other box. I have a bigger glue brush. I'm tempted to use this one today. That's too small. Okay. So I have my wet glue here, just off to the side. And I'm going to glue as close to this as I can. But I don't actually want it to go on this, on the thread. Again, if my words aren't coming out properly today, I apologise. And you don't want, if you watched my initial video doing a book tutorial, you don't want a thick, heavy glue spread. Like, you don't want it wet, if that makes sense. Otherwise it's going to start slipping around and it won't stay in place. You want to be able to move it enough that if you put it in the wrong spot you can move it, but you don't want it moving if you don't want it to move. Does that even make sense? Okay. So I'm going to check by opening up both sides. It needs to move just a little bit more this way. Okay, back on. Alright. Okay. So that's one side on. And I'm going to close it to glue this side. Or to add the glue to this side, I should say. And again, we just want enough glue that it catches. The biggest deal with the glue and making sure that it sticks, like that it's not thick, but that it's sticking even more, is when you're turning over the edges. You don't want those edges coming up. This is more to tack it down, but I mean, it's still just as important. Okay. So folding it up, making sure that all of those signatures are touching, and then folding that down. Yeah, there should be no glue on this spine. You want this spine, when you open the book, you want it to have this movement. You want a hole there. That's what's going to allow it to keep opening. Okay. So now I'm going to flip it back to here. And I'm going to work on cutting off these edges. These corners even, not the edges. And we want to miter it, so that's going in at an angle. Now I'm going to use corners, metal corners on here. So for me it doesn't matter if it goes right up to this cardboard edge. But if you're not adding a corner on, you really want to make sure there's enough left over on this corner that you haven't snipped away, that it can cover up the edge. I mean, this should cover it up. It does. You can see there's none of the chipboard showing. But you just want to be extra careful about that, making sure the chipboard doesn't show if you're not using metal corners. Well, I suppose it doesn't have to be metal, but... And you don't want to go straight across. If you go straight across, you're missing too much and it won't cover the chipboard. We're looking to cover up all of that chipboard. Okay. I'm going to glue this down and then we'll work on the other side. Oh, wrong brush. But that's fine. Let's set you back down and get the right brush. Okay. Just going to add glue to both spots for this one. I really want this secure. Sorry. Don't want this glue all over my mat. Okay. And I make sure when I'm doing this that I'm getting this edge here too. Okay. And then we're going to fold. This might be a thin enough leather that I can get away with not clipping it down, but I'm probably going to clip it down anyway. And usually I do this more by feel than by look. I'm rolling it down with my fingers. Like rolling it over and down. That way I can feel that there's no build up on this edge here. Okay, and just for the sake of it, I am going to add just a couple. I don't want it coming up. It'll be a pain. So I'm just going to do that. Okay. And then we're going to turn it, and we're going to do the same, but on this side. Just nice and careful. Now this one, I made a bit of a mistake here. I cut in too far. It will still work. And thankfully, the end pages that I plan on adding will cover it. But this end page is going to have to come much closer to the edge than I usually would. But it's what it is. Just do a little bit here. I keep bringing it in closer to me so that I can see it better, and then like, but you guys can't see it when it's at this edge. If the camera holder could come out a little bit more, I might see about doing that. Just pulling it forward a bit so it's more on the edge, but okay, so like that, and like this, and again I'm making sure I'm getting the edge of the chipboard. Okay. And I'm rolling it over, which you guys can't see. Yeah, this edge here might end up annoying me. We'll see. I mean, all it means is I have to bring the paper over more when I do the end page, but right now it's frustrating me because it's not staying down, because there's not enough of it to grip. So I'm gonna add an extra binder clip there. That's not even on the right spot. There we go. Smaller ones, which is what I should have been using in the first place. And this will just keep everything nice and down. Okay. So now we have these edges down. The final bit is to make sure that we get this glued and tucked under. It is a bit of a pain in the butt, especially because it seems I have a bit too much give on this spine, but it'll be fine once I have it all tucked in. It won't matter. I left a little bit too much, but what is too much? I don't actually know. I've not done it with this much space on the spine, but I don't think it'll matter. It's a big journal, so I actually think it'll be fine. I'm gonna add the glue here, and then just under, nothing at all. Nothing here. We do not want glue there. Even though this is being tucked up and under, we still want it flexible. You know, I brought out something to cover up my desk, and then I didn't bring it back out for this, did I? I'm careful not to get anything on this paper either. And you need to do both sides. Usually I'd be like, okay, try and take it in parts. You physically cannot with this, because it has to tuck under, and then, well, if you've not glued it, it's not going to be glued. Duh, that was a bit of an obvious statement, but I'm going to start by tucking the fabric under, and again, how I did with the others, I'm going to roll it. So roll it down as far as I can get it to go. I'm not just pressing to get it off here, I'm making sure that it's adhering to the chipboard as well. So all the way down. Get this clip back on here. Going on with you? Might be a tiny bit too long, but that's fine. There we go. So as you can see, we still have all this nice room in the spine, and I'm going to cover this bit here with just a little, where did I put the leather? Well, this isn't the right leather, but it'll be just a little turn of leather like this that I'm going to put inside the spine, like this. And then I will use an eyelet to clamp it together, and that'll just keep it all of the fabric here together without using the glue. Okay, but now I've just got to do this other side. There might even be an easier way to cover a Coptic stitch than this. If there is, I don't know about it, because I never looked up a tutorial for this. This was just Libby being Libby and trying to figure it out. Okay, just a little bit more. Not to get that glue on the spine. Alright, so again, I'm going to start with this piece. I'm trying to show you, but I'm doing it in a way that I can't get to it, so I hate that. Come here. Sorry, I've got gluey fingers now. So we're going to tip it under. And it's finicky, but I think it's worth it, because like the way it ends up looking when you're finished is, I like the end result, as finicky as it can be to put this together. Okay. I think it's worth it. So, again, a lot of rolling it down. You're just seeing my arm. I'm sure that's riveting. Oh, sorry, my phone is going off a mile a minute. I forgot to put it on silent. Okay. That actually went together easier on this end. But I'm just going to try and work it a bit more, just to make sure this is all down. So that side is looking fine. That side's looking fine. Cool. Take off the binder clips. And I'm just going to put these clips for now on the corners so it catches all of it. How are we looking over here? Okay. Yeah, this is going to bother me right here. But I'm hoping that between the end page, but this one's going to have a mushroom, I think we can get, yeah, we can get it far, close enough to the edge. If you look at it like this, that you're not going to see it, especially with the book corner. So that's okay. Okay. So now you can see this is a lovely leather-bound book, but it can still completely lay flat. And it's got all these gorgeous pockets in here. But no matter where you put it, it can still lay flat. And that's because there's so much freedom in the spine. There's no chipboard here, it is just leather. So it can just completely freely move, and it's wonderful. It'll stop, you see how it's, if it'll stop puffing up this way once I have those leather bands on. Okay, so up next, if I could find the leather, I'd stick those leather bands on. I have no clue what I did with it. Oh, never mind, found it. Okay, so for this, I want the width of here. I actually quite liked how I did it with this, how I slipped it all the way in. Doesn't need to though. And I don't want it sticking up too high. I want it almost like if you've seen a headband on a regular book, just to the top of here, not above it. I've done it above it before by accident and it ends up a pain, especially when it's on the bottom side. Okay, so you're what? I'm going to say 2 inches. I'm going to do it just a little bit smaller than 2 inches. And I have a perfect piece here that's already snipped, so... And I want 2 of these. I want one for the top and one for the bottom. I'm just going to go just a tiny bit under. And I think it really neatens it up. I should probably draw a line, eh? Here, ruler. Okay, well, it's not going to go that entire way, so... See. Realistically, I think I don't need this much of it. Let's do that again, Lib. Just under 2. There we go. I don't really care about the ends on this one, like how precise they are. They're all going to get folded over, so snip you in half. Is this too big? Looking at it now, I think it is. It is. way too thick. Where was that other little offcut that I had? Are you going to be a better fit? You actually are going to be a better fit. Alright, so I'm going to just use this piece instead. I didn't think about the fact that I was measuring it from the outside and not the inside. Okay, so I'm going to go with this. You can glue this, and I might glue just this end part, but the top you don't need to. It's actually kind of nice to have this loop. You can loop things on. Yeah, and then we're just going to put it in here. And then I'm going to use... Oh, you don't want it that high. The top one you can have a little bit out. As I say, I like using this loop. I did it on one of my friends, and that's how I attached their jewellery. But the bottom one, you obviously want all the way in. So I'm going to just add a little bit of glue. Just to the ends. Just so they stay together. Don't do it on that, Libby. Much rather your mat get messy than this book you've just spent days making. Okay. That's one. And... sorry. Can you tell that I'm used to just doing this willy-nilly? Usually I'm sat on the floor when I'm bookbinding, not at my desk. It's two. Okay, so as I say, whilst those are drying, really shouldn't have done that on the mat. Now I'm going to figure out how big I need my paper. With this one, I'm going to go from the top, because I really want the mushrooms on show. With the other, I don't want mushrooms on both ends. I'm going to do more this side. And with this one, I'm going to aim more for this side. Yeah. So, I really want it. Have a little look. Just a tiny bit in. So I'm going to bring it a tiny bit in from the top. And then mark it a tiny bit in from here. I should really be using a pencil for this. If you can't see what I'm showing you. So we're putting this up to the top. And then I'm coming down here and I'm marking it just a tiny bit reserved from the edge. So I'm thinking about there. And then I'm going to come across, and this already has a little edge here to about here. Now you can cover up these. But you're not going to be able to get it all the way up to the edge. It'll start curling. Usually you're not even going to see it anyway, this little bit. So. Doesn't bother me, it might bother you. I'm going to quickly just find my cutting mat, which I can't find. There it is. I'm putting them in random places lately, I swear. Okay, so I'm going to close you. And I'm going to measure for the other one. I'm not just going to assume that it's the same size, because it depends on how much of that spine is showing and whatnot. Okay, so that's you, and then you can't see what I'm doing. I'm just lining up the marks I made. I'm going to go somewhere in between those two. And this should, fingers crossed, fit nicely for the front. Actually, I did it too wide. Don't know how I managed to do it too wide, but I did. That's fine. I'm just going to cut a little bit extra off. Oh, it's because I went I did 2 marks and I went with the wrong mark. Where are you? Well, I can no longer see the other marks, so that's fine. I'm just going to take off a tiny bit. Test that again. There we go. That'll be nice. So I can get it as close to this edge as I can, but there's still a chance that you're going to see just a little slither here. It doesn't bother me. Hopefully it won't bother Mum. I forget sometimes that this book isn't for me, so it doesn't really matter what I want. Okay. So then the other sheet, I said I don't want a repeat of the mushrooms. I don't want it the same on both ends. So we're going to be marking to keep this half. And I'm going to go lower because I like this sparkle. So doing the same thing, making sure that it's about how far away, like giving enough of a border around the edge as I want it. Where are you? I would lose my head if it wasn't attached to my shoulders. Okay, so roughly about there. And then evidently it doesn't actually matter where I cut this side down because I'm going to have to trim it. Okay. I have some lovely scraps over here. See if I can find my lines. The light actually helps. I will say that. Boop. And here. Okay. Let's have a see. Yeah, actually, I think that was pretty perfect. Okay, now I'm just going to glue these on. Where did my first piece go? Libby! Stop losing things, girl. It's not you. Is it already in the front? Did I leave it in there? I left it in there. Okay. So again, do not want an absolute ton of glue. You don't want this thing wet. It'll start to warp. But I do want to use wet glue. Get this again. This is just some brown paper that a friend gave me. Well, it's an offcut. I was using it to pattern a hat. A Robin Hood hat, actually. And I messed up one of the measurements and it ended up 10 times too big. So, figured why waste it. Again, trying not to soak this. You don't want an absolute ton, just enough that it'll grip. But do your best to get it up to the edges. Okay. Move you down. Come here, behemoth of a book. I've never done a book this. I mean, I've done a book bigger, like dimension-wise, but not as thick. This is crazy. But I figured if I was going to do it, then I'd do it, you know. I'm sending her a book. She can have a book. A tome, shall we say. Okay. So, if you can see right here on the very edge, you can see a little bit. But for the most part, you're never going to see that. I can see it because I'm stretching it to show it. If that bothers you, you can try and jimmy it down a bit more, but then you run the risk of it curling up. Okay, this edge here needs a little bit more glue because it's on the leather. Okay. And I'm just going to again clip down these corners. For me, I find the corners are the most important spots to make sure that it's like thoroughly down. Okay, we'll put some here too. And there. Alright, so that's one. Squidge you out the way a second. We're going to bring back the brown paper, sure. Although this part's wet, so. It is gorgeous old brown paper. I have considered cutting some of it down to actually just make paper in a book. But I'm not sure yet how it would hold up. But it's old, it's full of like water stains and stuff. It's kind of cool. The sort of things that people like to fake being on their paper is just on this paper, so. Come a little closer, my friend. I got a little bit of glue on that corner. It looks really cool here because of the green of this forest. I don't know if I said, this book's supposed to be more of a blue theme. If you can hear that outside, I apologise. But when I very first started getting scrapbook paper, I showed my mum the book that this one came from. And she fell in love with this specific print. So I wanted to find a way to bring it in. And I guess I could have made a pocket out of it, but I didn't. I'm just adding extra clips to this one because it's trying to pull up. The other went down a bit neater. It's fine. Okay. Flip these onto the inside so that I can stand the book up whilst I do these end bands, and then we should have a nice finished book. Well, finished in terms of it's physically constructed. Not finished for me. I'm going to be adding a bunch of stuff to this. I'm not sending it empty. Just add a couple more clips. Okay. I'm going to just trim this down to make it neat on the edges. Because it's a bit uneven right now. I don't care about the end. That's not going to be seen. Looking, I'm just getting rid of any overlay so that it's all, yep, that's fine. Alright, so I'm gonna pop, which way's up? This way's up. Pop this in because it's the top. I'm gonna let it have just a, if you can see, just a little bit of extra space. It's not gonna affect it being able to stand, and then I can string through some chain if I want. Now this is the bit that always gets me because I am terrible at centering my eyelets. So I'm actually, what's this, like an, oh that's why it's 1.5 inches, not 2 inches. Let's see, roughly where would the middle of that be? about there. Probably should have used something other than my ink for that, but is this gonna work, or did I make this too thick for this to go in now? Boop. Come on, my friend, we've done this before. It's a tiny bit off center. It's fine. Mom, I'm sorry. I couldn't see what I was doing. And then I have here a silver eyelet. Yeah, that is off center. That's fine. I think I did it a little too low. I think that is actually the problem right now. Did I set you though? I set you. Okay. It's not centered. Mum, I'm really sorry. If that's going to bother you, I apologize. But it's in. That's holding all of that leather in the back down. I'm going to try and do it a little higher up on the bottom. I'm also going to trim a little bit of this down. So this one, I actually just want it resting in there. I don't want it sticking out. If it sticks out, it'll be just a tiny, tiny bit. And I'm going to glue this one first. Because I don't know if I want an eyelet down at the bottom here. So if I can make it stick with just the glue, I will. But the eyelet on the top is decorative as well. So see, it finishes it off, finishing off the bottom. I'm really annoyed that I didn't get that centered. Really annoyed that I didn't get that centered. But you only get one take, so you know. And then we have corners, which these can piss me off. Language, Libby. They can piss me off. Depending, I actually bought new ones because I ran out of ones with the thicker edge. That's going to be fine. That's not going to piss me off. Some of them have a much, you see this part here? Sometimes it's really small and I have to like twist it open and then it ends up looking really bad. You can add glue to these. I don't. I just pinch them shut with my pliers. And it's usually enough to lock it in. So, 1, 2, where's my other one? Hello? Oh, it's inside this one. So I'm just going to go around and add these corners on whilst that last thing is drying. And with any luck, I won't need to add an eyelet. I suppose I could just add a little brad or something, if it doesn't want to stay. I don't remember what I did last time. I think I just glued it, so. But I might have used art. 1, 2. We'll decorate the cover and stuff in a future video. I plan on stenciling and then using some of my gilding paint. Well, say gilding, I'm going to use the silver paint. This one's going to need to be opened just a tiny bit. So I'm just... Not a lot. There's a bit more build up here. So it depends on how thick the layers are. But some of them I've mauled to death trying to put them on, and then I end up hating the corners and putting new ones on. So what I'm really trying to do here is to catch the paper, like the edge of the paper, not just the leather. I think that really adds to the finished look, and it holds everything together. So. I used to do this with a hammer. I never used to have pliers, so I had to like knock it down with a hammer. That was not fun. You ended up with them looking squished. Pull you up a little bit. Right into the corner. Closed. If I wanted to and I was going to add a book plate, I'd do it and then I'd stick something on the inside to cover the brads. I'm actually just going to add a pocket down here and maybe a little something here that I can write on for my mum. So I'm going to paint the cover instead, and I'll paint something on the edge. Let's have a look and see how we're doing here, my friend. Are you deciding to stick? You are not. We're going to add a brad then. Oh, I lost it. Come back out. Come out. Where are you? I'm not talking to you, stinky doggo. Who's a stinky doggo? There we go. I'm going to add a brad, which requires me to find my brads, so I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back, and I have 2 brads. I'm thinking of doing 2, it might make it look cooler. Now, this still has glue on it, so I am still going to try and make good use of that. And then, where is my poker? Here it is. Okay. I need 2, and we'll see if I can eyeball this one. Come on. It's going through 4 layers of leather, so... I can feel it, which means it's gone through enough. So that's you, and then about here. If I can just make the mark on the second bit of leather, I can poke it through separately. Okay. That's you. That's you. Sorry, you guys can't see what I'm doing. I need to bring it up to my eyes to actually see where the marks are for the holes. Okay. And I just have 2 little silver brads. Hopefully the feet are long enough. So I'm going to feed them through the leather first, like the cover first. If I can find where that is. Hello? There's one. I might need to make that hole just a tiny bit bigger. 1, 2. 1. Come on. Come on, little feet. Get yourself out. 2. Okay. And then let me make these holes bigger. There's 1. Thanks for that. That's 1. And then that's 2. This bit I'm gonna have to move it so that I can see. Although that first one went right in. Okay. And then I'm just gonna open up the legs on the inside. I think I called them feet earlier. They're not feet. They're legs. There's one. I don't have nails, so this is kind of difficult. There's two. Okay. It did end up sticking out a little bit, but I think it should still be fine. Yeah, it doesn't get in the way of it sitting. And I actually really like the little detail of that. So, if we ignore this bloody thing being off center, I might, when I write on the side, I might do something down this edge, like a vine or something, just to tie it in. But yeah, let's take off all of these clips, and then I'll show you it. Okay, and here it is. It's definitely going to need a closure, and it's definitely going to end up chunkier because there's so many pockets. I'm not going to fill all the pockets, but I'll put a little bit of things here and there. So we added a nice ribbon, which I'll end up cutting down and then making a nice end to it. We added the cover, but it is still coptic bound. So all the properties of the coptic stitch is still here. You can still open it. It will still lay open. It's not trying to close on itself. We did the front page and the back page. And if this starts bothering me because I put it over the stitching, I might end up putting down washi tape on either end. Might. We'll see. But we put the corners on. We have the gorgeous leather, the off-center eyelet, and then the little headbands. Yeah, I think it's going to be gorgeous. Still not done. We still need a closure. I need to paint it. Need to close up these pockets because they're all open right now. So I'm going to go through and close those up and stuff. I might do that off camera. I don't think it's interesting to see me close up pockets. But then what we can do, what I can show you is adding in the decorations, decorating up some of these pockets, you know, all that stuff. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a lovely day, and I'll be with you next time. Goodbye.